Kyrie Irving, we've heard enough from him. Over the last, I would say, 5 years, Kyrie Irving has not only been the voice and the craziness of the NBA, he's come out and said that the earth is flat. He's come out and said things not only about the former organizations he's played for, aka the Boston Celtics. We've heard stuff with him with some of the players that he plays with, and he's attacked some of the players that he's played either against or with. Now, all of a sudden, with this whole vaccination in the NBA is forcing the players to get vaccinated. We've heard Andrew Wiggins come out and say that he was, for religious reasons, he wasn't going to get vaccinated, and that now that the NBA has come out and told him that if he doesn't get vaccinated, he will miss 40 home games, which then will probably make him lose $9 to $10 million going into the season, which is a significant loss for a player that was making about 19 a year. When you talk about what's going on in professional sports and worldwide with people losing their jobs, being forced to be vaccinated, but this is the way the world is working right now. And even if you don't want to be vaccinated, there's a very good chance that if you don't, you're going to lose your job. So there are 200 nurses out here on Long Island that lost their job because they weren't get vaccinated. Now, I haven't been vaccinated yet. Will I get vaccinated? As of right now, I'm pushing towards yes. I'm not healthy enough to get vaccinated yet. But to me, when you look at your livelihood and your family's livelihood, you need to decide what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. And right now, I know these NBA players are multi-millionaires, but guys like Andrew Wiggins, Kyrie Irving, and even Draymond Green coming out and speaking up, all the big mouths of the NBA who can't stay out of the tabloids or stay out of the newspapers. What are your thoughts to this?
Definitely toughest mostly on Andrew Wiggins and Kyrie Irving because their cities have also placed bans on if they do not have the vaccine, you will not play home games. So 41 games for Kyrie Irving at the Barclays Center. Not that he would have played all 41 anyway. He probably would have had some other reason to not play all of them anyway, but still not ideal circumstances for a Nets team that is championship or bust this year. And for the Warriors, they want to make that next step too, getting healthier, getting a lot of the players back that they missed last year. Andrew Wiggins was on the trade block anyway, but you would have hoped to be one of those players. And with the San Francisco rules now, remember their stadium is not in Oakland anymore. So with San Francisco's rules, they can't have that too. So those are definitely the two that is going to be hit hardest to their teams. We've seen other players come out too. Bradley Beal has said he does not taking it. And he also, remember, got it before the Olympics.
That was the second time he caught it.
He's already had it and he's still not taking that vaccine. We've seen Michael Porter Jr. just got a big contract say he's not taking the vaccine. Jonathan Isaac. So we've seen other players do it, but definitely Kyrie Irving and Andrew Wiggins, the two that's going to get hit hardest because of those city bans as well. And I'm sure there's going to be others that come out and say that they're not going to get it too. There's maybe some that are indecisive right now, but it seems like most of the league is on the track to be vaccinated. I think they're trying to catch up where kind of like the NFL is, where you're seeing all these teams get 90% vaccinated, 80% vaccinated to qualify for it. Now we've seen certain NFL teams be fully. So I think the NBA is on that kind of path too. And we're seeing some players take initiative as a result. It's mainly only a select few that have come out so far that said they're not, but I expect them to be more too before the season starts.
And LeBron James has come out and said some interesting things too. He has been vaccinated, but he's backing up Draymond Green. He's backing up Andrew Wiggins. Now, when you talk about the way the league is run and where the NBA is going, and it's not just the NBA, it's the NFL, it's the MLB, with all these players coming down with COVID-19. And I'm telling you right now, I'll be the first person to tell you, being that I just had COVID, it is not something that you wish upon anybody to deal with, especially if you're not vaccinated. Speedy, you've probably had less symptoms than I have because you were vaccinated. And that's the best thing about being vaccinated, is it takes away some of the symptoms you would have to deal with. And I dealt with a lot of bad ones because I wasn't vaccinated. But with the professional sports and where the game is going, and even some of these jobs and some of these opportunities out there, and now there are so many jobs that are available. People are getting jobs that you wouldn't even think that you would be getting because people aren't getting vaccinated, and I'm not taking the vaccination because it's religious reasons, maybe because people think it's going to affect their sperm count or whatever people think it is. But it's a political situation, and it is affecting the NBA in so many ways than one. And I wonder, with the way Adam Silver is running the NBA now and the players running the NBA the way they are, is this the right thing to do? Is this forcing the players to take the vaccination the right thing to do? Now, the question is, when you talk about the political end of it, when there's different states and there's different opportunities to decide on what they want to do and how they want to do it, you put yourself in position to lose a lot of money. And you talk about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's going to lose a significant $10 million. Andrew Wiggins losing about $9 million. Jonathan Isaac's going to lose on his rookie contract $2 to $3 million. So these kids, and they're still young. Kyrie Irving, like you were just saying, Speedy, the Nets are a favorite to win the whole NBA championship this year. If Kyrie Irving doesn't play for 41 games this year, what are the chances of the Nets winning, making it into the playoffs? Being that Kyrie Irving was barely in the playoffs, barely played in the playoffs with him and James Harden, and it was all Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant got vaccinated. James Harden got vaccinated. Why is it that Kyrie Irving is standing out of all these guys? And I understand he's got a voice. He's got his own opinions towards where this league is going and where this vaccination is going, and it's all politically savvy. But again, you're putting your team at risk to fail and not win an NBA championship. So I think this is the wrong thing to do. I think Kyrie Irving needs to obviously step up to the plate and do the right thing, not only for his team, but for the fan that is actually going to go out there and spend the money to watch a guy like Kyrie Irving play.
Like you were saying last week, too, if the Nets don't win a championship this year, you could see players move out.
Absolutely.
Want out, too. And I think that could be realistic for somebody like Kyrie Irving that's bumped around the league a lot, too. And obviously he's a great player, so teams are still going to want him. But, like, are good teams going to want him if he's going against all this? Now, eventually this kind of whole phase will go away.
No, it's not. If you don't get vaccinated, I'm telling you right now, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I'm not saying for this year. I'm saying for, like, the long term where maybe 2022 or something, 2023, this won't be as big of an issue where a team is like, all right, Kyrie Irving's available. All right, we'll go trade for him. We'll go sign him. We'll gamble on his weird personality as it is.
What, for 40 games? Are you going to really gamble for a guy that will not get the vaccination? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. If these guys don't get vaccinated, the NBA is going to push this. This is only going to get worse. With all the different shots now, and from Johnson & Johnson to Pfizer to Moderna, now they have booster shots. What are these players going to do if they continue doing this? Even if it's this year, they think that this is going to just go away. This isn't going away. It's going to get worse.
I'm more judging for like the 2-year range. Next year, yeah, definitely, because I think it's still going to be in force where not everyone's going to be vaccinated yet, and depending on the availability. And also, the NBA has a lot to deal with when it comes to international players, too, where different countries could have different restrictions on how much vaccinations that they've done in their country, too, just because they're not as economically strong as the U.S. either. So the NBA, more than ever, you're going to see these players like that. And again, so far, every player that's said we're not taking the vaccine that we know of is of American or Canadian descent in Wiggins' case, but not as much of the European players we've seen do it yet, too, because those countries aren't as ahead of the curve when it comes to the vaccine.
And I just think it's crazy because when we talk about the big mouths of the NBA, and there are a lot of them, and the two ones that we talk about all the time is Draymond Green and Kyrie Irving, and why we're not surprised. These two guys speak out more than anybody and have said their piece to it. I'm surprised Steph Curry hasn't decided not to take the vaccination. He has taken the vaccination, but I thought he was one of those people that were going to stand up for his rights and his thoughts. But I don't think he wants to miss 40 games and put his team in a situation where they will not be able to make the playoffs again for another year. I mean, Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers are back this year. This is a team that is going to be competitive. And Andrew Wiggins, now that Andrew Wiggins is not going to take the vaccination, do the Golden State Warriors trade him? That's a huge question that the Golden State Warriors are going to have to decide what they need to do. And the statements that Andrew Wiggins has said, I understand them, but you're putting yourself and your team in harm's way and your family, because that's a lot of money you're going to lose in almost 40 games that you're going to miss because you decided that you don't want to be vaccinated because, hey, you know what? I don't believe it. It's my religious beliefs. But I just think it's ridiculous. Also, with the NHL, the preseason has started over the last couple of weeks. The NHL season starts in about a week and a half, which I'm very excited about. Talking about the metropolitan teams, the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Devils. So far, what we've seen in the preseason is the Islanders playing great hockey. Some of the young players like Oliver Wahlstrom and Ruti and some of these guys that the Islanders have on their roster that are going to be the future of this organization moving forward. The Islanders signed Cizikas to an 8-year contract in the offseason, brought Zdeno Chara in, brought in Zach Parise. This is a completely different team. This is a championship competitive team. We talk about Barry Trotz's back-to-back years, Eastern Conference championships. Last year, they were one goal away and one game away from going to the Stanley Cup Finals. And if they would have knocked off the great Tampa Bay Lightning, they probably would have won the Stanley Cup last year against the Montreal Canadiens. So you're going into the season and you're going into the preseason, you look at some of the great things that you've seen, and Barry Trotz, I mean, he's got this team working on all cylinders. They look really, really good defensively. Their pairings are strong with Mayfield and Pulak and Pellick and now Chara on the team. And Green, you have some veterans. You got some young defensive pairings. I mean, the Islanders are positioned very well. As far as the Rangers are concerned, I don't know what this Ranger team is. Okay, now they have Gallant. I know the Beeve didn't like him. I know there's a lot of different Ranger fans that weren't so excited about Gallant. I really like Gallant. I think he's going to be a very good coach. He's taken quite a few teams to Stanley Cup finals. Never won, but taken them to Stanley Cup finals. Look what he did with the Canadian Championship team last year. I mean, he is a good, highly profiled head coach. The question is, was Gallant the perfect fit for the New York Rangers? That only time will tell. I always thought, and I told you, Speedy, was Mark Messier. I thought he was the best fit for the Rangers. I think the Ranger fans would have absolutely been more excited hearing Mark Messier behind the bench. So, I mean, your thoughts to the New York Rangers and so far what you've seen so far in the preseason for the Rangers?
Yeah, a lot of underperforming for a lot of the core pieces that Rangers have had. It's not like the Rangers are like experimenting with everybody that's young all at once and they're losing games to starting players. They're playing starting players too, and none of them have looked great either yet in this system, this new system with Gallant. And again, that could come over time too, a lot of new pieces all at once, but at the same time, you want to see the other guys make developmental steps. Now, we've seen certain young players score goals, like Capo Caco had a goal in their only win against the Bruins, but beyond that, they couldn't score any goals against the Islanders. They scored one goal getting trounced by the Devils yesterday, 7-1. Not a good sign for Shesterkin either, who has had a lot of issues.
Got pulled in the second period.
Got pulled in the second period.
For Hushka.
Soft goals, some easy goals he could have allowed, and that's not a good sign for his development either. There's certain defensemen that have played well for the Rangers, young defensemen, guys like Zach Jones and Brandon Snyder, so maybe that's a good step in the right direction, but beyond that, there's not a lot to like with the Rangers so far this preseason, especially getting trounced by the Devils the way they did. The Devils you're expecting to get better, but they're still not supposed to be a great team this year. You lose 7-1.
I will say this. The Devils have shown me they brought Tatar in free agency. This is a team that I think is definitely going to be a playoff-bound team this year. They have some good defensive veteran players and young players right now. I think this is going to be the year for a guy like Jack Hughes to take his foot forward. I think he's looked so far so good in the preseason. I think when you look at the Devils, especially being that the Metropolitan Division will be back this year, I think it's going to be a fun division with Philadelphia. They are definitely going to be better this year. Pittsburgh, once they get healthy, they're going to be pretty good this year. And then we talk about Boston and then the Islanders. I think that the Rangers need to play better hockey, and the Rangers need to figure out. They made some interesting moves in the offseason with Goudreau, bringing Goudreau in from the Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. He's played a lot so far in the preseason, nothing to really stand out and really stick out to me on what he is as a player. And being that they've been probably a weak team all really for the last 2 or 3 years with the coaching staff that they've had, hopefully the Rangers are going to be a little bit more of a rougher team where I think the players will be more excited to watch. But the Rangers have not looked good. When we talk about metropolitan hockey with the Islanders and the way the Islanders have looked, the Islanders have looked unstoppable in preseason. There's not many bad things to say about the Islanders' goaltending with Sorokin, who's looked fantastic. Some of the young players in Oliver Wahlstrom, like I was saying, Kiefer Bellows looks good. I mean, these young players that the Islanders have in their farm system, which, by the way, if you look at what the Islanders have done over the last couple of years, they really haven't had first and second round draft picks. They've traded them away. And the stock that they have from over all those years from Garth Snow and his draft stock, this team is positioned very, very well, Speedy.
Like you were saying with Ratti, they got a talent that was a first-round top 10 type talent that fell because he had a bad year, and now they're making him work. Will he make the team is to be determined, but he's had a great preseason so far. Definitely a guy that has a lot of upside to be the winger that the Islanders have needed for a while. A guy like Robin Salo is another young defenseman that can make this team.
Looks really good, too, by the way.
Yeah, he's definitely looked good. The Islanders are definitely going to be strong when it comes to the depth department, and a good mixture of now veterans and young guys to go along with that. They bring in Parise, they bring back Andy Green. And it seems like the Islanders replace these players very well once they end up leaving. They lost Devon Taves last year. They traded him to Colorado, and their defense didn't lose a beat last year.